What's up, Snapback fam? I'm your host, Jack Settleman. Joining me today is always my co-host and longtime best friend, Abe Granoff. Today we're in the stew. Abe, what is on your mind today?
What's up, brother? It's been a while.
It has.
I haven't had the microphones in front of us in, I think, a month. I think our last pod was
June 8th.
June 8th. Okay, so a little bit over a month now. So we've missed like 7 or 8 episodes. I don't know about you. I know I myself and Eagleson have gotten tons of DMs, messages. Where's the pod? Where's the pod? What the heck? Where's the pod? And we're back, but not for long. Today, should I take it?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be the title of the episode, so.
This episode that you're listening to will be, and it brings me great sadness and happiness to say this, will be the last episode of the Snapback Sports Podcast. 4 years in the making, 421 episodes later.
Is this 421?
This is 421, unfortunately.
I'll delete one. I'll delete the DJ Moore episode.
Delete one and then have Hallie go roll some blunt. Yeah, 4 years. I think if you asked Jack and I 4 years ago how long this podcast would go when Jack first brought the idea to me, first off, I didn't want to do it. We'll get into that. Like this whole podcast will be story time, reminiscing, favorite moments from the podcast.
This is for the loyal listeners,
right? If you're
new to the pod, realistically, this isn't going to be a lot for you. But for the loyal listeners, which I was getting a ton of messages as well, this is for you.
Yeah. So I don't even know where I was going because you cut me off with that. I think it's pretty poetic. Yeah, what I was saying is if you asked Jack and I 4 years ago when we started this pod after game 3 of the Raptors-Warriors finals, I believe it was game 3, how long we'd be doing this, I think both of us would have said, I don't know, 3 months or something.
A year.
Twice a week, 4 years, almost every week. We missed here and there. And listen, we both knew it was never going to be forever. We both had a shit ton of fun with this. I think I speak for both of us when I say that. But all good things must come to an end. Jack, what is the reason why the Snapback Pod is ending?
Yeah, so why is the pod ending? First, I want to say, I'll share why it's ending. So Abe and I both live our own lives. We're both growing in maturity. I'm very lucky.
Yeah, okay.
I'm very lucky to be able to, create content and do this for my job. But because of that, other forms of content creation and building the business are important. Abe works a full-time job. This podcast has never gotten to a point where it has unlocked us both to go and pursue this as our only thing. As a business owner, I had to take a step back and say, what is the best use of our time? Is it 2.5 to 3 hours of podcasting? Abe's got to travel for this. I got to send Canadian dollars to Eagleson, which is burning.
Do you actually send him Canadian money?
No, I send him USD, but it costs me $5 because PayPal switches.
Why don't you just take 5 out of his paycheck?
Because I love him. But at the end of the day, it's gone in a, I don't want to say a negative trajectory, but we peaked and then we kind of went in, we didn't continue to grow from there. So with all of that being said.
We sound like quitters when you phrase it like that.
No, well, that's a perfect segue into saying Abe and I and Eagleson, we're not going anywhere from the content world because what we have learned and really what's reinforced kind of the magic we have is that people like our dynamic. They like Eagleson. They like the humor. They love when we talk Knicks or Sixers or Raven. Like, people really do. And if you remember, the original goal of the podcast was to be in the living room with the fam. Mm-hmm. And I think we have given that feeling, which I'm super proud of. What we haven't been able to figure out, or what we just don't have realistically, and I've shared this with you, is we don't have an angle. We don't have experience playing those sports. We do not have, extreme comedic backgrounds. We don't have high-level analysis. We're kind of in the middle of it all, and that's that living room feel. But let's also acknowledge, what that is. Everyone has those conversations. What's our differentiator? And I think in the podcasting world, that's where we lack. Now, we're going to continue making content, and that could be challenge content. It could be Sixers vlogs. It could be a whole cast of things. We've started recently with some grid trivia. So if you want to check that out, it's on the TikTok Snapback Sports Archive. We'll be changing that name, but give that a follow on TikTok, which highlights our general sports knowledge. It highlights our rivalry theme of this podcast, while also our brotherhood. So it was more so just an honest evaluation of how could we grow this podcast? Because we've been at it for 4 years. We've had the biggest guests. We've had, we've upgraded our setup. You can always do more, but at the end of the day, it's never going to be our only thing. And we just don't really have that thing that sets us apart. We're not the best scorer in the league. We're not the best defender in the league. There's no reason for a large-scale audience to really tap in. Now, we're going to go and find that audience because I think it exists out there. So that is the reason. Happy to answer any questions from the fam. Hit our DMs on, this decision and where we're going next. But, yeah, it was just a as they say. It's
a business.
It's a business. We can't talk about sports all day and, not follow that framework. So for the next however long it takes us, we would do an hour every Sunday, an hour every Wednesday on average. If this goes 4 hours, I don't really care. This is it. But let's take a quick trip down memory lane, how it started. So I'll give my point of view. I don't know why or how, but I just knew that the Snapchat was great, but we wanted to expand this thing. And I think every kid's dream, and why I don't consider this a failure at all, is to talk about sports with their best friend. Mm-hmm. And whether it was getting paid, whether it was just convincing ourselves that it was worth sitting down and doing that a couple hours a week, that's a win for me. It's been amazing. But I wanted to start it, and I actually did a couple auditions before with other potential co-hosts, and then I was like, oh, why don't I just ask Abe? And I actually don't think you were interested.
Nope.
I would say at all.
No, I said no.
Yeah, I don't even.
I thought you were kidding.
I don't recall that, but I definitely believe that. So that's how it started. I was down in Fidei. You were probably in Philly at the time.
Yeah, I was reverse commuting to the worst job ever in Wilmington, Delaware. Yeah. Hating my life.
Yeah.
And Jack came to me, and at this point, Snapback as a business.
We were still Real Sports. I mean,
it was still Real Sports at the time, right? It was a Real Sports pod when we started. And at that point, correct me if I'm wrong, but the only form of revenue, the only business you really had outside of your personal brand, which even at that point wasn't big at all, your personal brand, was the Snapchat.
Yeah.
So the podcast was your first venture into content outside of the Snapchat.
Content and trying to make $1 outside of Snap.
Right.
Yeah.
And
remember the early checks? We would get a check and we would...
Me?
I would get the check, but I would send you the money. Yes. I promise you. Maybe I didn't tax you.
Well, you're a real business, so you should probably keep logs of that, right? to verify.
Yes, but I do remember we would get something like in a good month, $800 or $1,000, and I was like, that's pretty. That's actually pretty good.
Right. I do remember this.
Yeah,
and that actually brings me it's funny that you said talking sports with your best friend. And we're going to do ranked of their favorite all-time memories from the pod in general. But, I don't necessarily remember those little Venmos here and there, whatever they were at the time. But the first time I was sent a real payment for this podcast was, the most pinch-me moment I've ever had. And it wasn't a big amount until we started making, $75,000 an episode or whatever's $100,000. This was when we were making pennies on the dollar. But I just sat back and I stared at my phone and I saw the money come in and I was like, how the fuck am I getting paid for this? I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
I'm just talking sports with my best friend, what I do every day of the year. The only difference is we put a microphone in our face. And it was that first time that I had that. And I'm 5 years into my professional career now. And to be honest, even to this day, that was the first time where the whole do what you love and it'll never feel like you work a day in your life thing came to fruition, because It technically was a job. I wasn't under contract or anything. Actually, I think it was. I think
I
we
actually
did sign
don't
a contract.
for Blue Wire.
Yeah, we bleep that out, Eagleson. No free ads for sure. Them, and it was just
Are
like,
we gonna talk about them?
sure,
Okay.
fuck it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like this is like kind of on a lot smaller scale, like almost what I dreamed about, right? And like I never in my entire life had any plans to go into this, right? Jack was starting to venture off into starting his own business and everything and getting into the content creation space. And to be quite honest, Jack, I didn't at the time. I'm not going to say I didn't believe in you, right? Because I did believe in you. But to see where it was then and to where it is now, and to be a part of like kind of that first initial step into building out the Snapback content and Snapback sports as a whole is kind of what is the most special to me. Along the way, there was tons of pinch me moments, tons of technical difficulties. And actually those pinch me moments, which is like, I'll never forget having our first guest on. And I think it was Nate Burleson. I'm like, I'm interviewing a professional athlete. Yeah. Why the fuck am I doing that? And then it just became normal. Like I started to humanize these athletes. I started to
shit on them. Started to not want to interview them.
Like, yeah, no, I got Hollywood. It got to my head. I'll be honest. I was shutting down guests. Like you had to earn your way onto the pod, and a lot of early on success was just like, I think how many times, Jack, have I asked you over the last 4 years, are we good at this?
Yeah.
Like a lot. And even to this day, I still don't know. And thankfully to the people that listen week in and week out and the people that DM us and the Snapback fam, they were able to, whether or not we believed it or not, they showed to us that like you guys are actually good at what you do when you have something.
Yep.
And I think that's what was one of the more special things is like nowhere along the way in the last 4 years did I really believe in myself as a talking head in the sports media world or a content creator, for lack of a better word. But to be honest, the Snapback fam helped me believe that like if I wanted to go down that way, it's a lot of fucking work, but I can do it.
Yeah.
And I thank the fam for that, amongst several other things. But yeah, that was kind of just like the feeling that I had the entire way of not really knowing if this was for me or not, but having that push from the Snapback fam, like brought me here every Wednesday, brought me here every Sunday. And like we say Snapback fam time and time and time again as a joke. And like a lot of people, even I know I did, when Jack first came up with the concept of Snapback fam, I was like, that is so fucking corny. Like channel an ounce of creativity, but it just kind of stuck. And the fam was kind of the most special part about this. It wasn't the athletes that we met. It wasn't the experiences that we had. It was that there were times where I got messages from people that like I truly made their day. And I'm like, what? Me? What am I doing?
I would say the last month of messages has given me pause. It's given me confirmation that, we actually did do some good things along the way. And that's why I'm trying to make it as clear as possible I actually do think we have a dynamic here and people do enjoy it. I just don't know if podcasting is the forum for that because of that aforementioned angle. And look, someone might be sitting there and be like, no, you guys could crush podcasting. You just need to do X, Y, and Z. And maybe I just don't know the answers as well. I'm not saying I have it all figured out. But what I do know and what I think we all agreed with was we're not seeing the results based off our consistency, right? Like that's my number one recommendation to everything. And it's where I give you literally all the credit in the world is to show up because the money I don't think has ever been a driving force in this. You owe me. But 4 years, twice a week, showing up and doing it.
I think I lost money actually. It's $2.75 to ride the subway here. Today I missed this. Well, I didn't miss it. That's a different story.
Yeah, let's reminisce on some of the different places we recorded. For me, it started in my FiDi apartment, which literally paper thin walls. Teddy could hear me, to Gus's bedroom. Home during COVID, East Village apartment, at work for Whistle, in person at Whistle for Derek White.
In Florida.
In Florida.
In Italy at 2 a.m.
Italy, when we didn't get Kyrie, KD, and AD or Zion or any of those guys. And then all the way to the stew down here in Tribeca. What about yourself?
I think that's one of the funnier parts about, so a little insight into how when the podcast started. I was living in an apartment in Philadelphia. Jack had mailed me a microphone. Well, first we did a test episode, and then we signed a 1-year contract with a podcast cuck agency. And then Jack mailed me a microphone, and we were going to do it legitly. I think the first episode we recorded, I used headphones or something.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. And we didn't really know how audio, I still don't, by the way, for the record, how audio and all this stuff works. But you had convinced me that I had to be I couldn't be in a big living room. I couldn't do it there like a desk in my kitchen. So I was in my bedroom in my Philly apartment where I didn't have a desk because at that point working from home wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
And I remember I didn't have a microphone stand either, so it was a handheld microphone. But if I moved it even an inch, Jack and I, for 25 minutes before we started every episode, would have to find the exact perfect angle of me laying on my bed with the microphone. I was frozen for an hour and couldn't move it.
I think I recommended like a pillow fort for sound purposes.
I had... At one point, I had a wall of pillows with my head in the middle. It was a 3-sided wall, and there was an opening, and I would stick my head in there with the microphone. And the amount of technical difficulties that we had to start with, and to be honest, to finish with, we just had to stop this halfway through, just shows we got into this not knowing what the fuck we were doing, and we still don't. I mean, we do and we don't.
We have a much better idea.
We have a better idea, but it's funny to look back 4 years later and talk about how we started and what happened.
Yeah, I can't even get that to work. So I was trying to get a sound going to show that we've gone from the pillow fort to that, but nothing.
I have been staring at this sound machine wanting to press these buttons for fucking months.
Yeah, I don't know how it works.
And there's a thing on the sheet right here. Jack wrote, I actually don't think we ever got into a fight, like a real fight. We've gotten to fight about takes and this and that. Yeah. And I'll never forget bringing up, I had to explain to my mom, my mom what a podcast was. And I was like, I'm doing it with Jack. And then I told them that we were getting paid here and there. And my mom, who was an entrepreneur her whole life and owned a business, was like, you need to be very careful that you mix friends with business. Mm-hmm. And at the time, this didn't feel like a business, and it still really doesn't. It's just doing something fun with my friend. But yet, Jack and I had never gotten to a serious fight or disagreement over how the pod was going, over money. I don't think I've ever come out and straight up said, hey, where's my money? We just did this for the fun of it, and we just do what we do over text or in person, just put a microphone in front of our face. But I think that's an interesting part of all this, that we never got into a fight, yet you've managed to build an entire business. For the most part, all employees, except for a few here and there, are your family, are your best friends, are friends that you've met along the way. How do you manage to just make it work with business and friendship and family, and are there times where it doesn't work?
No, I've been
has this been a fear of was bringing Casey on full time, other than he would have never gotten a job outside of this and would have been working at McDonald's
That's his biggest fear.
Flipping burgers. Was there any ever hesitation? Maybe I shouldn't make this a friends thing, a family thing. Maybe that'll be my kryptonite.
I come from a family business. From two, actually. One is my family. Two, where my dad's business. It is a family business. I've seen the bad side of it as well. Plenty of the bad side. So I wonder if part of it is me being I think you can do a family business and avoid the bad side. Then there's conversations, right? There was a conversation, when we discuss moving in a different direction from this. And that's the fear in it. And I think a bad business leader or even a bad friend would be someone who's fearful to communicate and to come truthfully and honestly and say look, this is what we have to do. The bad leader would have walked around it or gone cold turkey or made up an excuse or a million different things. So yeah, you just have to speak openly and honestly, constantly check pulses on stuff. And that's why I said, if you or Eagleson were upset about this ending, like you had a voice in it. I think you see where I was coming from. I think you were in agreement. And once again, we are not finished. It's just going somewhere else.
My whole thing, like I've told a few different people, I've told my family that the pod was ending. I've told my friends and everything. And the general consensus, because at the end of the day, like throughout the entire 4 years of the podcast, right? Friends would come up to me, family would come up to me, people I never met would come up to me and been like, yo, what you're doing with Jack, you're fucking killing it. Snapback's growing like crazy.
Yeah.
And I always had to like dial it down and be like, I am not Snapback. I do the podcast. I'm one small whatever under his big umbrella brand and like differentiating that. And what you said about coming to Eagleson and I about the conversation, which is obviously a tough conversation because this isn't like Eagleson and I are mad about money that we're losing out on. We're mad about this or that or upset about this. It's like solely we just genuinely have a great time doing this. And the messages that we get from you guys are what makes us have a great time and want to continue to come back. But what I said to Jack, and I think what Eagleson said as well, is like, dude, I think I've actually brought up the idea of shutting down the pod on more than one occasion.
I actually don't know if you have.
And then we always had conversations about which direction to go, how we want to angle it, and I just kept hitting home like, Jack, you are building a monster business. You are spreading yourselves too thin. You need to be honest with Eagleson and I and understand that we will never take anything personally. And we don't care if the podcast grows. We care if Snapback Sports grows. We care because at the end of the day, you're my best friend since I was 8-9 years old. Eagleson has become like a brother to us. Yeah. And it's like, we just want to see each other win. And in this instance, the way to see Snapback continue to thrive and continue to win, not that they have been losing and they're going to win now, and the podcast is the Doc Rivers of Snapback Sports and going to be the difference maker. But at the end of the day, that's what we all want, and this is the direction that's best for Snapback Sports at this time. And like Jack said, we are working on different other content. What does that look like? We're not sure yet. We're open to a lot of ideas. If you see videos on your TikTok feed or Instagram feed.
Feedback, I would say, is the biggest thing. Like, you guys see what we're going to be doing, let us know. Oh, I like this. I don't like this. And we'll evaluate from there. But I want to, give appreciation for what you said. And you're saying how I've handled the business and all of that. But I couldn't do that without you guys. And so, look, I'm going to challenge you guys to say, Snapback Sports, I started. It's now a bigger company. We have 6 employees. You guys are not full-time employees. But the opportunity is there. And you actually are in a unique spot where I'm going to continue to give you that opportunity because I think that something between the group of us can work. But can you say, it's my thing? Like, it always had that feeling of it's Jack's podcast and he makes the decision. I'm along for the ride. Flip the narrative. That's my request is flip the narrative.
Request denied.
and I know Eagleson wants to do it. You've always said it's Jack's thing. Oh, Snapback. But why not? If, you love it so much, why not? So that's what I'm going to challenge you guys to do and to lead. And I think there's potential, but that's for another time. Let's talk about one of the better moments of the podcast. I would say it was probably about a month into the podcast. I figured out how podcast charts worked, and I mobilized the Real Sports fam through literally like $1,000. So essentially, to move up the podcast charts, you need a summation of 3 things. 1, 5-star reviews. 2, actual written reviews. And 3, downloads. Watch time, which is a big metric on YouTube, doesn't matter. If you literally just download the podcast, you don't even have to start the podcast. But it's this combination of 3 things. And this was pre-podcasting. So the amount of podcasts out there weren't that many. And at the time of Snapback, we didn't have Underdog partnership. We didn't have YouTube videos. We didn't have TikTok account. We did have
ShipStation. Make ship happen.
What is that?
Dude, what? We only had these random ads here and there. We had to read the one-page documents.
Yeah,
that's another behind-the-scenes funny moment. Jack and I used to, when we were assigned to an agency, get these like ads we had to read. It was ShipStation, Manscaped, Untuck It.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time we had to sit down and record these ads, like pre-record them and then insert them into the audio. It took 50 minutes to read a paragraph ad because we just like would laugh. Why are we doing this? Like, what are we doing?
That was the first time that someone in my family was like, "Why are you talking about shaving pubes like on the podcast?" But anyways, how we mobilized the fam, we got up to number 1 on the charts through a combination of that because we sent literally everyone to go attack. We passed. Who was it?
Part of my take.
Bill
Simmons.
Oh, you have
right here.
Yeah, the chart. So who was on the top of the charts? This is 2019.
This is 2019 in the summer. Number 1 on the sports charts of Apple. Real _ sports.
Of course.
A Snapchat sports pod. That name was horrible.
Art actually wasn't bad. I mean, basic as fuck, but wasn't terrible.
By the way, I didn't notice on this logo the _ basketball until Eagleson pointed out like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I've had it in my room for years.
With Jack and Abe.
Bill Simmons podcast number 2, The Ringer NBA show number 3, Sports Wars number 4, Part of My Take number 5. We managed to get to the top of that.
Yeah. It was cool. Even though it was a little cheap the way we did it.
Cheating is competing.
Yeah, we did it. And that was a fucking sick...
Banners fly forever, brother.
Exactly. And honestly, yeah, we'll have that moment forever. I remember where I was. I stumbled out of a bar. I was actually drunk.
Do you remember FaceTiming me?
Yeah.
Both of us were drunk as fuck.
I actually barely remember FaceTiming.
I was at this bar in Philly called Morgan's Pier. It's this outside thing in the summer. And for like, I think 24 hours before that, you and I...
we started climbing.
We were climbing like, we're 68. Yeah. What the fuck? We're on 42. And we just kept climbing and climbing and climbing. And I remember that Friday night driving home from work. I know where my car was on 95, seeing number 3. And I was like, is this going to happen? And then I go out with my friends, whatever, hasn't happened. I'm sitting at a bar just refreshing the Apple podcast.
The craziest part about the refresh in the charts is there's no like... You can't watch the view count go up, so you know you're gonna pass. It was random as fuck. Like you would refresh, and we go from like 18 to 14 in like 12 minutes, and then you wouldn't move from 14 for 3 hours. But then you'd be at 11, and then you'd be at 8, and it was just And then
I remember going to 1, running out of the bar, FaceTiming Jack by myself, walking the streets of Philadelphia, both of us drunk as fuck. And then I decided I'm going to go by myself and get a cheesesteak and go home.
Really?
And that's what I did.
That's a great nightcap.
That's what I did.
So that was a lot of fun. And I will say, we definitely used that momentum, even the fake it till you make it momentum, to parlay that, get some betting in there, into some really big guests. Because, not going to lie, if you're number 1 on the charts, like people, they don't know. They just see number 1. So that leads us to, our favorite guest stories. I put a dash here, and as I thought about all my favorite guests who we've ranked in the past, and we could go through all of them. Some of our favorites off the top: Austin Eckler, Derek White. I love doing Dare Ogunbowale. We had CJ McCollum, Jay Will, Jack Flaherty, Joey Chestnut. Like really some J.R. Smith this year. But what is crazy, and you'll call me lame and corny again for this, is as I thought about my favorite guest stories, literally none of them popped into my head, because every time I thought about the conversation with them, my favorite moments happened between us, with those guests being there.
Like what?
Like Derek White. Like when I think about how fun of a pod that was, I'm thinking about how we're joking about cereals, and it's really like our conversation.
Right. And
the guest is just there. And so I want to say that my favorite guest was you. I told you.
That was actually a bar. I didn't think you were going there.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother. My favorite guest was Derek White.
Yeah, I love Derek too. What did you have? Some of your favorite guests?
mean, I'll never, till the day that I die. Like, I hope that my kids one day are watching Joey Chestnut on July 4th eat 80 hot dogs in 10 minutes, and I can point to him and say, I interviewed him, and he officiated a banana eating
That's
contest.
my point, though.
with
That
me and
story
my best
is
friend.
us, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not about him.
I think my favorite guest stories are like the funny ones, like where we're chatting on the side of the Zoom, like, will this guy shut the fuck up?
This is my point. None of it actually has to. I can give you a couple. Like, I thought some of Nate's stories were pretty funny. But I thought Trayvon Diggs' Wonderlic response, which you don't even like remember, was pretty funny.
No, I remember that.
But for the most part, exactly. It's part of. I mean, we can get into ranked, our final ranked, which is favorite all-time memories from the pod. My number 3 is the ones who didn't show, like DJ Moore, although he technically showed up. He didn't really show up and give us time, or Jared Dudley becoming themes throughout. But yeah, when I think of guests, it's really, I just think of like they were the story, but the pod was between the two of us. So yeah, that's my number 3 rank. The ones who didn't show. Did we have any others who didn't show?
Probably.
I feel like we had a really
the Jared Dudley one was the funniest because we ended up, because he was such a nobody at the time and still
is.
Dude, he's been on my timeline coaching like the Summer League Mavs team.
Yeah, you gotta curate. You gotta get
Jack
on threads. You gotta get on threads.
It was like I think it was a Friday afternoon or something.
It was.
And we had like a 5 p.m. scheduled, which is at a wild time to do a podcast, 5 on a Friday. We're sitting there. We had to confirm with his agent and everything.
No. This was just to the DMs.
Oh, to the DMs.
Yeah.
Waiting. 5:30, 5:40. Only to find out this fucking conceited, narcissistic asshole isn't showing up to the pod because on ESPN Classics, they have a game showing of Boston College versus whomstever, and he's watching himself play when he has an obligation to come on this podcast. So what did we do? We spin that into banning him from the podcast.
Well, let's be transparent. We waited.
Oh, we waited a while.
Because
that's why we hate him.
He said, I'm just watching the end of the first half.
And I said to Jack, and I was like, dude, there's 18 minutes left in this game.
Yeah. And he watched the whole second half, and then he ghosted. So, yeah, the ones who didn't show.
You know who ghosted me, actually? Like, we had some back and forth. Let me see if I have this on my phone. I don't know if I do. I think it was from the podcast account. DK Metcalf agreed to come on and then just didn't answer.
That would have been fun.
Yeah, that was when we first went number 1. And, like, he wasn't really into... He's into content, I feel like, now.
Yeah.
And that would have been fun. He ghosted us. There's definitely some others along the way that have
There weren't many, though, I will admit. Especially if we got a commitment, I would say that the only one that we got an official commitment from that did not show, that was, like, actually through his agent, was the corner for the Giants.
Darnay Holmes.
Yeah, Darnay Holmes.
You know who Darnay Holmes is?
Yeah.
He's the guy in the London or whatever game.
Yes,
from
yes,
the
he
knee
got
with
his
ass out and he's
yeah.
pretending to get like jerked off or something.
Yeah.
My number 3.
Pretending to get jerked off. That is not what he was doing. That's what the meme was.
How do you know?
You're right. I actually don't. Maybe he wasn't pretending. Maybe it was a real.
All of really my ranked are really just kind of pinch me moments. Number 1 is obviously going number 1, so I'll just say that.
Wait, time out. Ranked, we do 3.
I know, but we already talked about going number 1,
Okay,
so I'm just... My number 3 was the fan pods. We started this during COVID when there was
Zoom, when people knew how to
how to do Zoom, and we didn't have shit to talk about. We're like, you know what? We market ourselves as like the people's podcast, that we answer DMs, we answer everybody. We're not these celebrities or whatever that everyone thinks like people are in these positions and they don't answer. Let's bring people on and have them ask questions. And that was like seeing how many people were in the waiting room, seeing the excitement on people's face when they got in to ask questions was just like,
do you remember the first person?
Yes, it was a guy in his office about 40 years old.
He was a nurse.
He wasn't a nurse.
Yeah, he was
If I remember correctly, he asked a question about who's more responsible for the Warriors dynasty, Steve Kerr or Mark Jackson.
Really?
I think that's what it was about. The fan pods were just awesome because it was like, are people actually want to like ask me questions and are enthralled about it?
That was the thing. Was I will say the first couple of years of the pod we didn't really ask ourselves, are we any good at this? We actually threw that out the window.
We knew we weren't.
Yeah, pretty much. This was a moment where we knew that we had the Snapback Sports Snapchat account or the Real Sports account that would drive attention. If I posted that you guys needed to download an app or needed to literally watch Abe and I punch each other, like the fam was loyal. They were hyper engaged, still are. And we knew that we were getting listeners through that and also through giveaways and stuff. The Fam Pod was an interesting moment where people were officially coming to us for our opinion and asking us questions, not because they wanted to be on the big screen. They just wanted to have their questions answered by us. And I think that's part of what made it cool. And that's how we found the Eagle.
That's what I was going to say. That's how we found Eagleson. Eagleson came on. Like a lot of these kids, guys, adults who would get on, like, that was what was so funny to me is like these guys were nervous to ask. Some people were nervous to ask us a question. I'm like, me?
Right.
The fuck? And then Eagleson comes on, very mature, which fooled us. Asked a good question, good back and forth, and then just really reached out to Jack and said, hey, I'm not doing anything, would love to help you out. And 2.5 years later, he's still not doing shit, and he actually got dumber, but we love to have him a part of our lives. So the Fam Pod was a pinch me moment, and it brought us our podcast bitch.
Yes. My number 2 ranked were the Wonderlics, specifically the Wonderlics, the Snapback draft Wonderlics that we would do with the NFL draft class. The draft series were honestly some of my favorite content. And then why the Wonderlic the most was because in all of our years of podcasting, you know, this is what I'll keep repeating our issue. We didn't really have an angle. Like rankings, you know, that everyone does rankings. What did we used to do? We used to do rankings.
Monday mailbag, stock up, stock down.
Stock up, stock down.
Oh, well, that's a football season.
Right. And those were, you know, kind of some of the segments. But Wonderlic was an original content idea that we came up with. On top of that, it really broke the ice with these guys. And I would say we probably did 18 to 20 guys over 3 or 4 years.
More.
Yeah, probably
Definitely more.
And I don't think one time we had a bad experience. Now, there were some awful answers. There were people who were more shy. There were people, but no one was like, dude, this is not my vibe. Like, fuck this. Like, all were good sports. And I think that's a credit to us for curating that. And then we've created relationships. And whether or not we actually interact with those guys, we've followed them. And it's been fun to follow them. And like, I don't know. I thought Evan McPherson out of all of them was like our most awkward Wonderlic. Like he kind of came on.
It was my favorite.
Yeah, it was extremely interesting. But Evan, for whatever reason, I just had this cold feeling with him throughout. And to see him actually follow us throughout the years and then linked up with him in Cincy was just cool. So I think that those Wonderlics were a ton of fun, original, and created those bonds.
And like you said, with building these relationships, like, did I ever in my wildest dream, you know, it's Josh Dobbs, right? Let's not write home about it. But did I ever in my wildest dreams imagine going to a fucking Super Bowl party in Arizona for Josh Dobbs to recognize me and ask how I've been? It's like, that is kind of the craziest part about it. Like, if you ask 7-year-old Abe Granoff and Jack Settleman, like, you guys want to interview your favorite athletes? Like, that's a crazy concept to me. Like, we looked up, we watch ESPN every day of our lives, Sports Center. It's like, we were kind of doing that, and that was part of the sickest thing.
Yeah.
Additionally, what was, in my opinion, this was the coolest thing that we did.
Yeah.
Was the Snapback Live event in Arizona this past year. Add on the fact that the Eagles were playing in it. At that point, I didn't know what my fate was. So at the time, it was fucking awesome.
All good.
And like, granted, we didn't sell out State Farm Arena by any chance. It was a sick bar, don't get me wrong. And there were probably 50 to 60 people there, I would say. People bought tickets. People commuted.
Yeah.
People drove hours to meet us, to listen to the podcast, maybe just to get a hat and some shitty chicken fingers. Take pictures. I gave a fucking autograph. I gave an autograph. And again, pinch me moment, like, how did I end up here? And I mean, truthfully, I have Jack to thank for that, for how I ended up there. Like, he gave me an opportunity. He stuck by me. And it's just like, I, over the course of the last 4 years, truly lived out a lot of childhood dreams. Yeah. And I didn't really realize that at the time until like now.
once again, I think like favorite guest stories, right? And you don't even mention Jamal was probably the best part of the whole entire thing. Like he was genuinely. Those are probably our list of favorite guest stories. Like he was just hilarious and a gracious guy. You talked about Josh Dobbs recognizing you. One of my favorite things of watching, because over the last 4 years, you have always made it about me and Snapback, and you've taken no credit for yourself. But seeing Gers and Derek's relationship kind of grow, like. You got free tickets from him. You know, everyone remembers the first time we like got his number, or maybe like a couple other players. It's like, you talk about not recognizing, not interviewing them, texting with
during
a pro
the Eastern
athlete.
Conference Finals after he just wiped my team's ass.
I mean, literally, we go to Game 6 in Philly. We're both, we've both been drinking. You're depressed, and he had literally just probably like boarded the plane to go back to Boston. And I sent him a picture of Abe, and he's trolling Abe. Like, I just think that's awesome. So we love Derek forever. Like, I don't know. Maybe the one thing that makes me believe in God is my number one thing. And it's that we recorded on Sundays and we recorded on Wednesdays. And
it was only ever me.
It was only ever you. And it literally always ended on Sunday night. And that would be when the Eagles lost to the Seahawks in the playoffs and Josh McCown came in for Carson Wentz. When the Eagles lost in the Super Bowl to the Chiefs. When the Sixers lost in Game 7 to the Hawks. And when the Sixers lost in Game 7 to the Celtics. 4 all-time moments on the podcast.
If you would have started the pod 2 months later, you would have had the Kawhi shot too.
Yeah, that 2 months earlier.
2 months earlier, you would have had the Kawhi shot
on a Sunday, too. Yeah.
And listen, every single one of those were some of the worst times in my life. If you want to rank them, let's go.
A rankception.
Eagles Super Bowl has to be one. It's the Super Bowl. It's tough. Sixers Hawks is probably 2. Sixers Celtics is 3.
But Sixers Celtics was awesome because it was like you had found yourself as these.
This was it,
right? That was your moment.
But the Hawks one was the path was there.
Yeah, the path.
We had the Hawks
there.
in the second round.
Yeah.
And to be honest, these are some of the worst memories that I'll ever have in my life, and I'm sure the Sixers, Eagles, and everybody else will add on more, so I'm able to forget some of these and fill them in with new bad memories. But at the same time, like, they are some of my favorite memories.
Yeah.
I will never forget being so depressed after the Sixers had lost to the Hawks and going on my phone the next day and watching the videos of the clips and the content that was created of people clapping at my takes on saying I'm out on the Sixers and all this shit.
Yeah.
And like that little shit brought me so much joy and laughter.
Remember the meme account? He was great.
Oh my God. Snapback memes was the best.
Yeah.
And then there's an Abe Granoff fan Twitter account.
Fan page. Yeah, I met him. He was a big fan.
Yeah. It really was wild that all of the heartbreaking losses where we had to record a podcast right after all ended up with me. Every single one.
Yeah.
And genuinely, the only time this podcast ever felt like a job was in those moments.
Yeah.
There was Jack, I say this with my full heart. There was no place on planet Earth I would have wanted to be less than sitting in a Zoom or in a room with you with a microphone. Now, after Sixers Celtics Game 7 this past year.
That was therapeutic.
I needed that a lot. And I don't really remember a lot of it, what I was said. I probably disagree with a lot of it now. I know I do. But yeah, it just always ended up on my shoulders. And that's kind of like we each had a thing with the podcast. And unfortunately, mine was heartbreaking losses in the playoffs.
People joke about Lamar being a running back, but man, that man lost on Saturday nights in the playoffs, So you got to pay him his respects by that.
And yeah, my number one memory of this podcast, I can tell you where I was. If you took me to Morgan's Pier that night in Philadelphia, I could point to you where I was standing at the bar. If you put me on getting off of I-95 or whatever road it is to go to my apartment, I can show you where on the road I was when I saw. Yes, I was texting and driving, but we were going number one, so sue me.
Okay, don't do that.
Don't do that.
We did. One of our ads was a "Don't get high and drive." Actually,
Yes,
safe driving.
Yes. I can show you where on the road I was when I saw where, like, number 4, I was like, this is happening. But going number 1, yeah, I told that to a lot of people.
Yeah, that was funny.
I literally, it is a flex. It was a flex, and I leaned into that flex all I could. I'm not going to lie.
You got to enjoy the
for sure.
You got to enjoy the journey, and you know what? You got to enjoy the destination too sometimes. Other favorite moments, maybe just like our bonus here, would be the takes. Like, there is so many takes, and honestly, the most memorable ones.
I actually do think, and this goes back on this whole self-awareness conversation, I genuinely think I had the best takes out of the 3 over the years.
That's the problem.
No,
The amount of times you beat like the Sixers over the head about winning a championship to literally get to the second round every time might default you into being the worst taker.
those aren't my fault, though.
Right.
Those aren't my fault. Those are their fault.
So what I was going to say is some of the funniest and best takes are the ones that lived over 4 years. So the irony in Carson Wentz, Abe saying, and it wasn't him like aggressively saying it. He was like, yeah, I like the contract. You know, it's a little expensive, but it sets the market. He's our future guy. Reasonable takes. But like how the Wentz situation has played out over the last 4 years is nothing.
That take was 1,000% objectively correct.
If you're removing any awareness of needing to actually evaluate the player.
At the time, everyone and their mother would have signed Carson Wentz to that contract. And at the time, the timing of it was correct because you had Jared Goff that was going to get paid. And if Jared Goff had gotten paid before Carson Wentz would have gotten more money. That was the right take. The wrong take, when we lost Jimmy Butler and got Josh Richardson in return. And I think the exact quote was, this is a great sign and trade. He has one of the most, and I think I don't even know how this pertains to a contract.
Is made up.
The most respectable contract in the NBA. And he stunk.
Yeah, he wasn't good. Al Horford was not good. There were plenty of Sixers we could talk about that weren't good.
I actually, in my phone, I saw it the other day. I made a pick stitch. You know the Peter Parker Spider-Man meme where he wipes off his glasses and like he sees somebody new? It was him looking at Al Horford in a Sixers uniform and then wiping it off, and it was Serge Ibaka holding the NBA Finals trophy because he played alongside Marc Gasol.
That was fun. Another early one was obviously like my guarantee on Kyrie, KD, and AD being Knicks. I think I actually do.
You
not
owe a
legally,
lot of
but I owe
people
a lot of
$20.
people $20. And maybe one day we'll actually have them collect on that.
If you ever sell Snapback Sports,
I should give those.
You should say,
I should give 20
in
grand.
in the press announcement, you should say, if you have proof
Yeah.
that you did what was required to earn the $20 at the time, I will officially pay you out.
Yeah, I think we'll do like, if you know what I'm talking about here, about KD, Kyrie, and AD, hit me up, and I got $20. And we'll see if the OGs know. What were some other great takes? I mean, I will say the baby goat Lamar stuff did develop over the course of that season. So that was on.
That was the MVP season?
Yeah, that was the MVP. Well, I called him the baby goat in preseason.
The MVP season was the worst thing that's ever happened to you.
Why?
Because you started buying into him being the greatest quarterback ever.
What were the Knicks takes of who we're going to get probably didn't come to fruition, but I will say I got lucky.
You're still doing that, though.
No, but I got lucky because there were 20 years of bad Knicks basketball, and out of the 4 that we podcasted for, like 2 of them were actually pretty good.
You've only been a fan of the Knicks for 4 years.
I know. I'm saying, and half of them, the Knicks were actually good. Like
cute.
Yeah.
They're cute.
They got as far as the Sixers ever did. Let's put it like that.
Ever?
Not ever. Well, the Knicks have won a championship.
You're saying the last 4 years.
Yeah.
That's not true.
Wait, what do you mean?
The last 4 years, you said the Knicks have gotten farther than the Sixers have ever. False.
As far as the Sixers have.
Ever. False.
No. Okay, in the last 2 decades.
Well, have you played in a Game 7 in the second round?
No, we got to 6. You're
Thank
right.
you.
What are some other takes? Yeah, it was mostly Ravens. It was mostly our teams, which made it fun and it made it personal.
And like, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but like the arguments that we would have over stupid shit, like when we would rank like best burgers or this and that, and something that had nothing to do with sports was probably because like that's what we did. Like we just said shit that was on our mind and debated it. What other takes are there? I'm sure the fam has all of them.
Yeah, well, a lot of them have them documented, but we'll leave it at that.
I do want to read. I think that there was one message I got a long time ago from a fam member, and it like almost brought tears to my eyes. Like he told me I motivated him to do all this stuff and everything.
Yeah. I think his name was James. But there was another one that I recently got. Let's see if I can find James. Not Laraf James. I forgot we had Laraf James. Is that it?
No, that's not it. Anyway, this was a...
This is also a microcosm of the podcast. Abe coming prepared mentally with good content, but not actually coming prepared with the content. Respectfully.
So filibuster, that's how you be a good content creator.
Yeah, I was going to say another thing was the 0.0% guarantees. That originated with me on Snap actually posting that when Ray Lewis came out of that tunnel before the AFC divisional game, Titans-Ravens, it was so loud. And I was like, we're 14-2 and won 12 in a row. There was no way. So I posted there's 0% chance. It got picked up on Reddit. And then it became a thing. And I did guarantee that we would beat the Titans that next year, but the 0.0% guarantee or 0.00000% guarantee, you did miss one at one point because you started when you did your first three. I remember they were like not 100% guarantees going to happen, like some were a little risky and they all hit, but then you started to push the envelope.
What'd I do?
You would be like,
if you don't have an example of the 0.
It was probably a Sixers thing.
No.
It was.
If you don't have an example, I was proven right. But I found the DM.
Okay.
And I think this is what's the coolest thing about the pod to me is that I think that the fam's relationship with us started to look very similar to you and I's relationship.
Yes.
Whereas we hate each other so much, but at the end of the day, we know that we love each other. Yeah. So on March 31st at 8:30 in the morning,
yes,
I get this message. This is long.
Who's it from? Do you have? Yeah.
I think that's a play, like trying to make me say something funny.
Alpha Kinney?
No. With the number, say it. Into the microphone.
Alpha Kinney 1.
Say it fast. Say it fast.
Is it?
Say it fast.
Am I going to get
Say
canceled?
it no, you won't get canceled.
Alpha Kinney 1? Okay.
So he got you.
I like that.
I'll fuck anyone. DM me on March 31st at 8:30 in the morning. You are the biggest fucking idiot on the internet. Not only are you Jalen Hurts' little slut, but you're also a Joelle, spelled Joelle, so the girl version, Embiid slut. You constantly cheer for Philly thinking they'll actually win something, when in reality the only thing you have right now is Creed. Oh, the movie with Michael B. Jordan. Oh, that's a good one. I hate you so much, and I hope that Jack keeps cheating on you and has a million other people in his chair, especially your brother. I hope Doc Rivers stays the coach of the Sixers. Suck it. And I hope that the Eagles go back to the Super Bowl and keep holding players when it matters the most. When you read this, I hope you are drinking water, but it's really cold and you get a brain freeze and it hurts for like 30 seconds. Phillies are going 0-162. Eagles are going 0-17. Sixers lose first round. I'm manifesting it. Philly cheesesteaks are overrated, and when I went to Philly one time, I had to leave immediately because of how shitty it was. I'm done now. Have a terrible day. With love. So he sent me that on March 31st.
This was post-Super Bowl, pre-NBA playoffs.
Yeah. And then he came crawling back once the pod stopped being released. I said LOL 2 hours later. No communication. And then about last week, out of nowhere...
July 5th or whatever?
Yeah. He goes, I need you to come back. I miss you so much, Abraham. I need you. I need to hear what's on your mind. I need it so bad, Daddy.
Damn.
And that just perfectly encompasses the relationship that Jack and I have, and now that we have with the fam, is like, I'm going to rag on you guys and your teams as much as possible, and you know it won't be personal until maybe it gets personal.
Yeah, it does.
And you're going to do the same thing to me. But at the end of the day, like, we do know that it's with love.
It's
like,
much love.
I hope you have a terrible day with love.
I'll fuck anyone. One. Final what the hell internet graphic is actually a banger.
So
it is a banger.
Go ahead.
Have you listened to the
No.
What?
I haven't.
So for context, Kadarius Tony was a New York Giant, got drafted by them, was explosive, exciting, kept getting hurt, would have these weird injuries, goes to Kansas City and wins a Super Bowl this season. Actually scored a touchdown, I believe, in the Super Bowl game. Oh, he had the punt return too? Or was that Sky Moore? I think it was Kadarius Tony. Pretty electric. I'm going to pull this up, and I'm going to fucking play it. It is... Oh, I sent it as a TikTok in the group that you obviously did not respond to.
Yep.
And look, self-awareness, I didn't have this prepared. This actually is...
Okay, so I don't
It
really...
is Eagleson's job.
I know he was going back and forth with a fan and everything.
Yes.
But what did it for me... So there were voice memos that were sent.
He sent a Twitter voice message to someone who said, "Yo, music is trash, you bust bitch. You miss Daniel Jones. That's why you're mad, huh?" And this is an all-time. Listen to it.
You talking about miss Danny Jones? Apparently he missed me. Fuck ass nigga. I can show you the call log. Bitch ass nigga. He calling me, blowing me up. Fuck nigga. Fuck you talking about, hoe ass nigga. I don't give a fuck about no muted shit you talking about, bitch ass nigga. You ain't slid on no block. You ain't pulled up on me yet. You ain't talking about shit within my DM, nigga. Pull up, nigga, or shut the fuck up. Period.
Then that person responds, "Nobody misses you sitting on the sideline all season, buddy. You ain't do shit for us besides stay injured, bum bitch." His response.
Well, tell that nigga stop calling me then. Nigga, miss me, fuck ass nigga. With your pussy ass on my DM, nigga. Unless you dropping an addy, fuck nigga.
Yeah,
KT, brother.
I
best part about
interviewed
this,
him at Super Bowl when we were doing the media day.
Yeah,
he sounds like that.
the best part
He
of
didn't
the
say that to
story
me, though.
is he said he got hacked.
Wait, he did?
He came out and said he got hacked. Dog, that's your voice.
Hey, AI made a Drake sample. I believe they could do that, but I don't know why you'd want to say you got hacked. That's
the Jay Will.
You got out of the Giants. You got to Mahomes. You won the Super Bowl. Who cares? You won. I would be like, yeah.
Was it Jay Will who did something that said
Yeah.
I got hacked?
Yeah.
Well, what'd he do?
Or he tweeted some porn, I think, and then said he got hacked.
You don't need to be hacked to be horny.
All right. It is time. We're at about the hour mark, which is a perfect time to bring in, for the final time on the podcast, a segment that Abe, who gets full credit for this, created to introduce Eagleson.
I have a request, though. It's our last episode ever. Do you really want to waste a minute of it listening to shit about hockey?
No, but I just wanted to say this is What the Puck with Andrew Eagleson. Take an earphone off so you can hear him. Mr. Eagleson,
Yep.
How are you doing?
That was a lot to sit through and listen to the whole time. It felt very full circle.
Wait, in a bad way?
No,
Or like
not
you're saying in a
at all.
sentimental?
In like an emotional way.
You made it. You were like, honestly, guys, like that was a lot.
No,
and-
not like that. Not like that at all. And yeah, it just felt very full circle talking about the Wentz stuff at the end. And I don't know, there's kind of a lot to dive in there. I kind of want to get through this hockey stuff, and then I have some questions for you guys after we can get into it.
Oh, you're actually doing the hockeys. All right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we are.
For the final.
For the final time, What the Puck? Andrew Eagleson. I never have to hear a single thing
It's
about
the
hockey
last
ever
one.
again.
Last one.
Abe, this is beautiful. Like Abe knows that Connor Bedard. Actually, I don't even know if he knows.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, he knows Connor Bedard.
If you ask me who the Blackhawks had drafted
Yeah.
and say his name, I don't know if I
Yeah,
got
but
it.
you know Connor. Abe, this is beautiful. It will be like he'll never know about his career. Like he's
Yeah.
one of the greatest prospects ever, but he'll never.
No more intake
I
of
might have
hockey
Eagleson
content.
just send me a minute a week.
Yeah,
of,
like a voice note?
Yeah, about what's going on in the chill. All right, Eagleson, What the Puck? 3, 2, 1.
All right, so seeing as this is the last What the Puck, I think it's only fair, and Jackie already kind of said this, that we acknowledge Abe for coming up with this super clever and funny name for this segment. It wouldn't have been the same without it, so thank you, Abe. That actually was really good. Now with about 50 seconds or so left, I'm going to tell you about how, after all the Shanahan and Dubas shit, post our loss to Florida, and the tree living higher after that, we've somehow got the best Leafs team in the last 20 years. I really thought it might be a down year, a year to, figure things out. Brad Tree Living is not fucking around. He wants to win, and he knows exactly what we needed. And I am so happy I get to use this on the last What the Puck. Sandpaper wingers, and a goddamn lot of them. Hometown boy Max Domi coming back to where his dad became a fucking legend in Toronto. He's the literal definition of a sandpaper winger. They also signed Tyler Bertuzzi from the Bruins, who's a sandpaper guy with offense too, a better Michael Bunting. And if I haven't even mentioned Ryan motherfucking Reeves, maybe the toughest guy in the league. And with the Bruins team that's going to heavily regress, same with Tampa in the Atlantic, it's looking like this
forever, bitch.
Yeah, I would say over the 2.5 years.
If you want to reconsider, he's in on the Leafs. You want to just run it back for one more year?
Run it back. I mean, holy shit. I will not miss that. Respectfully. Very much respectfully. But 1 minute of hockey just really does not wet my whistle too much. But I'll miss you. And I'll give Abe full credit, but I want the credit for saying that we should do a minute of the Dolphins on Thursday's episode, and then specifically making you tell us. So can you tell us how many days it's been since the Dolphins most recently won a playoff game? Because honestly, that I think they're going to be good this year because Tua's fat, which is like funny and could be good for them.
They're not going to win a playoff game.
I just couldn't. You guys are, and I think my underlying reason for
third favorite in the division.
Shut the fuck up. I'm sorry. I can't do this right
officially.
Now. He has
I think that's what did it.
He has a full sleeve.
Wait. Andrew, true or false? According to Vegas, the Dolphins are the third favorite to win the AFC East. True or false? It's one word answer.
Happens to be
Correct.
Happens to be true. It's also just so the people know, it's been 8,239 days since the Dolphins have last won a playoff game.
Honestly, maybe it's the Dolphins that had me kind of reevaluate this pod, because I did always think if we did this consistently for years and years and years, that we would find an up level of success.
I went to like 9 championships this year.
But 8,200 days, they haven't even won a playoff game. So, it takes a little more than showing up every single week. So thank you for the Dolphins. But we are going to do a little Q&A. Yeah. Eagleson, I think you bring an interesting point of view to this. You were a fan.
Yeah.
You became, you were fam. You were on the fam pod. You were a little intern. And then you became part of the story. Yeah. So what questions can you ask that, you think the fan might be wondering?
Yeah, so I guess I know you kind of touched on it already, but I wanted to get, Abe, your genuine first reaction when Jack asked you to be on the podcast. Not what you kind of thought afterwards, your first words out of your mouth when Jack asked you this.
No.
Straight up no.
Something like that, probably.
Yeah.
I was just I honestly just thought he was kidding and not being serious about it. And I think he asked me a few more times after. It was I think he was come on, we'll do one.
Pulling teeth.
Yeah, it was come on, we'll do one episode. This was genuine. Podcasting, wasn't
it was
really
a full thing, but it was not a thing that people would just start. Right. Nowadays,
everyone has a podcast.
Start podcast. Right. Yeah, I was just at the time I was working a shitty corporate America job that I hated every day. I just graduated college, and to be honest, the reason that I said no wasn't because I didn't want to do it or didn't think that I could. It's because I never saw myself as putting myself out there in this type of capacity. I never pictured myself on a sports center or on television, or not that we've done either of those things.
Yeah,
but you know what I mean.
You have a voice for radio.
I get it. You have a face for radio, bitch. I just never. It was scary to put myself out there, and that was probably a lot of the hesitation. And then growing up, you realize that nobody gives a fuck about anyone but themselves.
Yeah.
I guess a follow-up question then. Jack, you kind of mentioned it during, a little bit earlier in the podcast. What other co-hosts did you interview for this position?
Yeah, what the fuck?
I think I did it. It was maybe 2, but it was definitely 1. I want to say it was maybe one of the kids that was over here playing pickup hoops. His name's Blake. I would have to go back and ask him. It might have been him. And he's a big gambler, so it would have been more of like through the gambling lens. Not that we didn't have, the people's parlay. We didn't even talk about
Profitable all time.
Profitable and the best handicappers in the fucking nation.
Profitable
we should
all
just put
time.
out our picks and sell our picks.
Sell our
Talk
picks.
about
Yeah,
winning
I'm not
money.
putting shit out for free.
Yeah. But yeah, him and maybe I did it with one other person, but it was brutal. I mean, I wasn't good, but they were awful. And Abe was awful too, but I loved him and I thought he brought energy.
That's cap. I was
and
fire.
some rapport. So yeah, Abe won the audition.
Yeah.
Like there, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier. The tough decision. If he wasn't the best, like I would have had to tell him, like, sorry, Abe, like we're going in a different direction. It was clear, he was the one out of the three. Tallest midget, my brother. Tallest midget.
Thank you. We celebrate life's smallest victories.
Yeah, I guess another one then. Do you guys remember how you felt after the first episode? You're done filming that very first one. How'd you feel?
Yeah, I remember being excited and then finding out that Abe's audio was fucked up.
Of course it was.
So we had to throw it in the trash.
Of course.
After the real first episode, I don't necessarily remember how I felt. I really don't think we thought about the product of the podcast for a long time, which, maybe that's one of the pitfalls of it. I think we wanted to see the numbers. We wanted to see if anyone cared. We wanted to see if people actually listened to it,
Right.
and they did. So, yeah, it was cool because, Snapback Sports are real sports at the time, and the Snap feed was really, and still is today, it's aggregation. So people love what we do, and they love our aggregation of content, and we're elite at it, and we're great at that. But this was a question of, did people actually care about what we were saying? And I think that's what really matters in this whole content world, and they did to a degree.
Yeah.
Do you remember how you felt?
Yeah.
No.
Nothing?
No, I think it was like, I think we did it at the time I was still going to bed at like 9:30 at night, and I think we did it at like 9, and I was just really pissed and wanted to go to bed.
Yeah. Abe's moody, you got to know your talent. I will say, I don't remember what episode we listened back for the first time. I don't think we listened to the first episode.
It took me a long time
Yeah.
to listen back to an episode, and it was very difficult because everyone on planet Earth knows this. Listening to yourself talk is the most vile thing in the
Yeah.
entire world, until I got used to what I sound like in general, and I'm just like, okay, that's what I sound
Yeah,
like.
I blow all the time. So
It's so I don't think I listened to it until like you kind of made me, honestly.
Yeah. I guess another one. What was it like for you guys to bring me in? Like, you guys were doing this for a year already, right? And then you just do this fan pod, and then basically some random ass Canadian kid who's a Dolphins fan. Like, what was that like from your guys' perspective? Like, what was the conversation on your
Glad that's how
side?
you framed yourself as a random ass Canadian who's a Dolphins fan, because that's the only
That
way
is
that's the only way I've ever viewed you as a human. being, as a
and
random ass.
we were not confirmed on legs for a while.
For a long time.
I would say the weirdest shit is we went 2 years without meeting. Like that
Yeah.
is, you want to talk power of the internet, power of content.
Also
My
COVID though,
belief
right?
Yeah. But I think like social media and the whole point of Snapback and the Snap account was to give, the general fan a platform. And this is what that was to a degree, that like literally any random Canadian,
Random ass
fucking
Canadian kid.
who was a Dolphins
Yeah.
Dolphins fan could work with us and hang with us. So you fit in naturally. I mean, you were a huge pussy early on. Like you were in sophomore or junior year. That's been fun for me to watch. It's like your confidence grow, your voice grow.
Your balls drop.
Yeah, that is still unsure on. And like we're coming up at some point, and we're partying in
We're hitting the
college.
town, eh?
Yeah, we're hitting the
Oh
town.
my god. Yeah, I guess like going off that too, I just wanted to say, like, Jack and like Abe too, like you guys gave me such an opportunity to come on here, and like you said, I'm just some
See how he just threw in, and Abe too, I guess.
okay.
That's your fault. That's because you always frame it that way.
No, it's not. He could have easily said Abe and Jack if he wanted to, and he said Jack and I
It's
guess Abe
because
too.
he says
You
he
do
always
say it
does
all the
this.
time, but no, like credit to you too, Abe. You're so fucking funny, and like it's just why are you? I'm not trying to do that right now. It was
No, I appreciate
No.
that. I appreciate that.
So just I'm kind of losing my train of thought a little bit now, but it's
Go ahead, challenge
it was
Got
such
it.
like it was just like I don't know. I'm the oldest of 3 siblings, and it was almost like having like 2 older brothers. Like even I know you guys are fucking with me half the time, but it was like genuinely coming in and work with like these older guys. Like and I know this is gonna sound stupid again too. You guys did genuinely teach me a lot. I grew up with you guys just telling me fucking with me random stuff. Going to school, I know you guys think maybe I wasn't paying attention, but like you guys did teach me a lot of shit, just stuff to like pay attention to, stuff to listen to, and it did genuinely help a lot. And I just wanted you guys to know that, and the fan to know that too, that it's not just superficial over the screen.
I genuinely mean this, Eagleson, from the bottom of my heart. Jack's a different story because he is Casey. You were like a little brother to me, truthfully. Like teaching you about college and telling you about high school and study tips and this and that was kind of that feeling.
Yeah.
100%. You guys feel like older brothers to me. I mean that.
Go.
It's all love, brother.
I think that's how we wrap it.
Let me finish. Let me finish with one more question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was the Jakeem Grant contract worth it? That was the question.
Is that his question?
That was my question.
Whatever happened
Hey,
to
hold on. That I want to give him his credit because that's how you do it. That's how you
Full
do
circle.
it. You circle.
Whatever happened to him though, Jakeem Grant?
So he signed a 4-year. It was 4 years, $24 million contract. They restructured it the year after to 1 year, and then he ended up going to the Bears.
Going where?
The Bears. Yeah.
That was the take I was fully right on. And
Yeah, you were.
You were probably there with me.
I was probably right too. I know what you meant.
You don't pay a fucking punt returner $6 million a year.
bad.
And then he was trying to tell me how Jakeem Grant was going to be 1,000-yard receiver for the Dolphins.
Yeah.
I will say Jakeem Grant is another figure that has like stayed within my life, and then I just used him in one of these grid trivias recently.
Nice.
Because he played for the Browns as well,
Yep.
so he hits it
Yep.
a couple corners there. But yeah, a round of applause for your content development there on your final question. If you had not asked that and skipped by it, I would have been sad.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the end. This is the end, and on the
There's something in parentheses you didn't read.
on the screen is in parentheses. It's for now. And as Eagleson sent the doc to prepare, which we could talk about the origination of show planning. First 100 episodes, we literally just freeballed it. Second 100 episodes, I probably came with notes on my screen, did not share them with Abe. Third 100, I asked Abe to write out what was on his mind and his ranked ahead of time. And then the last probably 100 episodes, Eagleson would prepare this, nice document for us over the last year. And so as I was going through, my thought was, this is the end. Great memories. This is sad. All of this. But there was this feeling of this is the end for now. And, my feeling is the timing isn't right to continue this. The growth trajectory isn't right. The platform maybe isn't perfect for us right now. But I don't know if this is the end forever. I don't know if there wasn't something here and that there's not still something here. And so do I think in a year? Do I think in, like you said, you thought we were going to be doing this for 3 months, right? I thought we'd do it for a year.
I thought a year. I thought we signed a year contract.
Right, exactly. And then it was like, all right, maybe we'll renew for a second year. But after that, two was probably the max.
Yeah.
And that's how I ran Snapback forever. It was, I would think in years, in a single year. That was the longest I would think. And then when we worked with Underdog and they proposed a 2-year deal, that was the first time I ever thought, oh, okay, this could be an actual thing and you could think more than a year. And then a future deal that we're doing, we got proposed a 5-year contract. And I was like, wait a second. We've only been doing this for really 2, technically 6, whatever you want to say. And then today I was listening to a podcast and it was a conversation about 10-year goals or 10-year thoughts. And I actually think in the next 10 years, I don't know when it is, I think that this could be brought back. I think there could be a time and a place. I think that I don't think that it's the permanent end. It's the end for now. it's going to be the end for at least a little bit of time from the podcasting perspective. But it's the end for now, and we're going to leave the podcast up on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You're going to be able to see the last 30 episodes or so on our YouTube channel. And it's just the end for now. And it'll always be for now. I have no clue how the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years are going to go. But I don't think anyone here between the three of us or the last 12 people listening at hour and 20 of this would be upset if this isn't the permanent end. So that's my feeling.
If you're still listening to this and you're the fan member, DM me on Instagram the word potato, and I'll send you $5 on Venmo.
Okay.
Don't push this that way.
I was going to say, I'm going to post on the Snap, be like, just go to the last 12 seconds and you can get $5.
Yeah, who knows what's in store, but at the end of the day, the only reason that we came back twice a week for the last 4 years for the most part and sat in front of these microphones are genuinely because of the fam and because of you guys. For those of you that have listened to every episode, that have made fun of us when our teams lost, that have DM'd us when's the episode dropping, that have just caught on to our little bits, to our jokes here and there. From the bottom of my heart, thank you, because the fam made, and I didn't realize this over the last 4 years when it was happening, the fam made a lot of Abe Granoff's childhood dreams come true, truthfully.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be the pod without saying fuck you too, and that your teams are cuties, and if you don't root for Patrick Mahomes, you're probably not winning a Super Bowl. So there's no better way to cap this off than with some analytics from me. Abe gave the his feeling, his gut.
What feeling?
No, just like your analysis, your speech to the fam. And I'm going to give you the numbers. So in the past 4 years on this podcast, there's been a total of 0 championships won. Unless you count the 87er, what do you call your guys?
Delaware 87ers.
Yeah, Delaware 87ers. And the U.S. beating Canada in the quarterfinal of the Gold Cup a couple nights ago.
Fuck out of here. I won my basketball league, my rec basketball league.
We did win the Knock-A-Mixin tournament together.
Yeah, and I won my rec basketball league. Eagleson, you haven't won shit.
Yeah, no, we got nothing over here.
Championships appeared in. And if you're somehow new to the pod and just wanted to hear the last pod, this is Phillies, Sixers, Eagles, Flyers, Penn State. It's Texas, Knicks, Celtics, Orioles, Ravens,
Yankees.
Texas, basketball and football. Yankees, Tottenham.
And whoever he's feeling that
Yeah,
day.
pretty much, vibe
Giannis.
Giannis won.
Yeah, it's one.
Then you've got Dolphins, Leafs, and we don't count the Raptors for Eagleson because he wasn't on the pod and because he's not actually
Doesn't
a
know
fan.
ball.
Yeah. Championships appeared in. Eagleson, I like this.
Wrong.
He wrote 1, parentheses 2 if you count the Phillies.
3 if you count the Union.
3 if you count the Union.
All within a week.
Playoff losses. 55 total playoff losses.
This is such a skewed stat.
Between our main teams. Sixers, congratulations, take up almost half the pod. You're league leader with 24 losses on the Sixers, which does give a
That means you're going deep into series.
I was going to say, it's a tiny bit of irony, though, that, you kept saying they're going to win the championship. And, Leafs at 15. They did finally get out of the first round.
They did.
Knicks, 9 playoff losses, which shout out the Knicks.
Which means they got to the playoffs.
Yeah, they went twice. Ravens, 3. I want to say, this year. Okay, so 3. Dolphins, 1. Eagles, 3 as well.
3? Super Bowl,
McCown.
Saints, or does the Alshon year after? No, that wasn't when we did the pod. McCown. Oh, Tampa.
Yeah.
We got smacked.
Smack. 0.00000% guarantees gotten wrong. Jack at least 2, Abe 0, which I do not agree with.
I couldn't find them. I also thought so, but I couldn't
Yeah.
find
Exactly,
them.
because they don't exist.
Eagleson 2. Abe not understanding how recording works. 1,753,628 times blacked out on the airwaves. Me one, Abe one. Do you remember mine?
No.
I did a solo pod after the Ravens beat the Patriots because it was Sunday Night
I didn't
Football.
listen to that shit.
Yeah, you went to sleep. But I was pretty hammered, and I was pretty hyped up that Lamar owned the GOAT. Ring chases completed. This is a nice one. Yeah, I don't have anything to show for it, but I did give out a ring over the last 4 years.
I was so drunk after the Eagles made the Super Bowl in this podcast.
It was so good.
And the final tally, which, I mean, we're not big weed guys here, but the irony that we couldn't land on 420 and we would land on 421. 421 podcasts uploaded, recorded to the ether. Over 421,
Wow.
which let's call it an hour on average. 421 hours. If you're bored and you are flying across the country,
Whoa. Yeah, 420.
if you're flying across the country 80 times over the next...
It's 17 and a half days worth of podcasting. I really hope I did that
Holy
calculation
shit.
correctly.
421
Divided by 24.
divided by, yeah.
17 and a half days worth of
Yeah.
podcast recording.
That's nuts.
So, all right. Whoever listens to every minute and pulls a note from every single minute.
Someone find me a 0.0 I got
Yeah.
wrong. 'Cause
For
you're
how
spending-
much? Put a bounty on it. $100? A standard you. I feel like it's got to be a standard
No,
you.
just find it.
Look, if we cut the pod and Abe's out of...
No, I haven't gotten paid for this pod in months.
So one last time. Abe, final thoughts?
Jack, thank you. Eagleson, thank you. And most of all to the fam, thank you. One more thought. Jack, fuck you. Eagleson, fuck you. To the fam, fuck you.
Fuck you.
All right. Snapback fam, much love. Peace.